I hadn't said his name in almost 3 years. Not once. Not aloud. Not in a whisper. Not even in a scream, though I'd come close. But there I was, standing in the middle of my art gallery's reopening, champagne flute in one hand, trying to remember how to breathe, because across the crowd of polished heels, curated smiles, and pretentious critics he stood, him, Aidan Walsh, the man who once made my body feel like fire and my soul like glass. He hadn't changed much. A little more stubble, a little less arrogance, but those eyes, still the same molten gray, still the same storm I drowned in when I was 24 and foolish. He shouldn't have been here. I turned away too quickly, pretending to laugh at something. My assistant whispered in my ear. My heart was thundering so hard I thought it would knock the paintings off the walls. What the hell was he doing back in New York? I slipped out through the staff door, heels clicking down the corridor like a heartbeat, fingers trembling, my breath fogged in the cold night air as I pushed open the back door and leaned against the brick wall. He wasn't supposed to exist anymore, not in the city, not in this gallery, and definitely not in the carefully rebuilt life I had crafted. With every ounce of strength I had left after him, still hate openings. A voice murmured behind me. I froze. I turned slowly. He was standing there, hands in pockets, that crooked, devastating smirk curling the corner of his mouth. Aidan. He said nothing at first. Just looked at me like he'd been waiting 3 years for this exact moment. Maybe he had. I heard about your gallery, he said. Thought I'd stop by, support an old friend. I laughed bitterly. That's the title we're going with now. He looked down, guilty. At least he had the decency not to pretend. I made mistakes. Liv, you left without a word. I thought I was protecting you. Don't give me that noble sacrifice crap. You disappeared. Aidan, no calls, no goodbye, just gone. He took a step closer. I could smell him cedar and smoke, just like I remembered. It hit me like a memory I hadn't invited. I was a mess, Olivia. You know that. I didn't want to pull you down with me. You didn't pull me down. I whispered. You broke me. He reached out then hesitated, like his hand remembered where it used to fit against my skin and didn't trust itself. I never stopped thinking about you. I wanted to slap him. I wanted to kiss him. I wanted to cry and scream and ask why the hell he came back now when I was finally okay. Almost okay. Why are you really here? I asked, narrowing my eyes. He looked away. Because I heard you were happy and I needed to see it for myself. The silence stretched, taut and fragile between us. I should have walked away. Instead, I just stood there watching the man who left me once, wondering if I'd let him do it all over again. From inside, I heard the muffled clink of glasses, polite applause, and the voice of my assistant calling for me. But I wasn't ready to go back. Not yet. I shouldn't have come, Aidan said finally, voice low. Then go. I whispered. He took a step back, then another. I watched him walk away again, just like he had 3 years ago. Only this time, something in my chest ached differently. And as he paused at the corner of the alley and turned to look back one last time, I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep that night. How Could I? Aiden's face kept flickering behind my eyelids, his voice echoing like a song I once loved too much and tried too hard to forget. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the cracks in the plaster like they were constellations of all the things he left unsaid. When morning finally came, I poured myself black coffee, ignored the ache in my chest, and told myself it was just a glitch in the universe, a test, a coincidence. Until he walked in again. Not at night, not hidden in shadows, but in daylight, in my space, with a bouquet of white lilies in one hand and that infuriating mix of regret and charm on his face. I blinked. You've got to be kidding me. Don't worry. I'm not here to ruin your life, he said, placing the flowers on the front desk. Just your morning. Too late. He smiled. I asked your assistant when you'd be in. She told me you usually come early. Remind me to fire her. He took a slow step closer, eyes scanning the canvases hung for the new exhibit. My pieces, my emotions on display. I felt exposed. So this is you now? He asked quietly. This is me always, I replied. You just never stayed long enough to see it. Silence. He stopped in front of a painting one I'd done the winter after he left. Dark, bold strokes. Messy, heartbroken. I hadn't meant for it to be about him, but it was. You still paint like you feel too much, he murmured. Some scars don't fade, Aiden. They just find better brushes. He turned then, face unreadable. Can we talk? Really talk? I thought we did that last night. No, he said. Last night. I showed up. Today. I'm staying. Those words did something to me. Made my stomach twist. My heart thought I should have thrown him out. I should have told him to take his regrets and disappear again. Instead, I walked into the back studio and left the door open. He followed. The studio was my sanctuary, untouched by noise, untouched by memory, until now. He ran his fingers along the edge of my work table. It smells like you in here. Don't do that, I said sharply. What? Speak like we're still allowed to be that close. He nodded, jaw tight. Fair. I leaned against the edge of the table, arms folded. So, talk. Say whatever it is you came back to say. He hesitated. Then, I got sober last year. My breath caught. I hadn't expected that. I was in Ireland for rehab. It took everything I had not to call you. But I didn't want to come back half-healed. I wanted to come back bare. My throat tightened. Why now? Because I was ready, he said. And because I missed you in a way that never dulled. I tried to move on. I tried everything. But no one was ever you. I looked down, blinking hard. I hated him for saying the words I used to pray he'd say. I loved you, Aiden, so damn much I couldn't breathe. And you left me drowning. I know. He stepped closer. But I'm here now, not to fix the past, just to ask if there's still a version of the future where I can be in your orbit, even as a friend, as someone who doesn't vanish when things get hard. I stared at him, and the truth, the awful, beautiful truth, was that a part of me still loved him. A part of me always had. But love without trust, without healing, that was just slow poison. I don't know what this is, Aiden, or what it could be. But if you think you can just pick up where we left off, I don't, he cut in softly. I just want to start where we are. For a long moment, I said nothing. Then I walked to the door and opened it again. He paused on the threshold, unsure. Tomorrow, I said. Same time. Don't be late. His eyes lit up just enough. He nodded, stepped out, and didn't look back this time. And as I closed the door behind him, I realized I had just done something dangerous. I'd let him back in. Aiden came back the next morning early this time, before I'd even opened the doors. He brought coffee. Black, no sugar. He remembered that it should have infuriated me. The way he walked back into my life like it hadn't shattered around him 3 years ago. But it didn't. It just made everything hurt in a way I'd forgotten I was capable of feeling. We didn't talk much that morning, not at first. He sat in the corner of my studio while I painted like he used to, when silence between us meant comfort, not caution. The brush moved in my hand, but my mind was stuck looping through the mess we used to be. You know, he said finally, voice soft. I used to dream about this. I didn't look at him. About watching me paint again. No, about being able to look at you without guilt eating me alive. I paused. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. Liv, I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I was broken when I left. And instead of letting you love me through it, I ran. I would have stayed, I said quietly. I would have fought for you. I know. He said, that's why I couldn't let you. He stood, walked toward the canvas. You were the only thing that ever made sense. And I was chaos. I turned to face him. So what now? You want a do-over? Pretend none of it happened? No. I want it all to matter. The pain, the loss, even the silence. I want to believe it brought us somewhere better. Somewhere better. What a dangerous phrase. He stepped closer, eyes searching mine. Liv, is there even a part of you that still wants me? God, I hated how easily the truth wanted to leap from my chest. But instead, I gave him the only answer I had. I don't know. He nodded like he'd expected it. Maybe he had. I can live with that, as long as I'm still here to find out. And just like that, it started, slowly, carefully, like handling glass that had already been shattered once. He began coming by every morning. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't, but each day, he stayed a little longer. He watched me work, helped me hang pieces, even fixed the old espresso machine in the break room. He was showing up in ways he never had before. But something inside me kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because love with Aiden had never been easy. It had been fire and ash, passion and destruction. And just when I thought maybe, just maybe we were rebuilding something new, the past knocked on my studio door. Literally. His ex-finance Samantha. I recognized her immediately. The sharp cheekbones, the cold elegance. She looked like a woman sculpted out of marble. Aiden told me he'd seen you, she said, stepping inside like she owned the air. But I didn't think he'd be foolish enough to fall back into this. I asked, heart pounding. You, the girl who always made him forget who he was supposed to be. I folded my arms. And who's that? The man who cheats, drinks, and leaves when it gets hard. She blinked. then smirked, still sharp. I see. What do you want, Samantha? She walked slowly around the studio, pretending to admire the art while her words stabbed beneath the skin. You think this little nostalgia trip is going to work? That he's changed? Please. He left me too, Olivia, 2 weeks before our wedding. I swallowed hard. He's good at fleeing, good at making you believe it was noble. She stopped inches from me. He'll do it again, because some men aren't meant to be saved or forgiven. And then, just like that, she walked out, leaving behind silence that screamed louder than any painting I'd ever made. That night, I didn't sleep again, because the thing about second chances, they only work if the past doesn't knock twice. I didn't mention Samantha to Aiden the next morning, not right away. I wanted to. I rehearsed it in my head 100 times how I'd throw her words in his face, ask if he planned to disappear again, rip open old scars and watch them bleed until something felt honest. But when he walked into the studio that morning, messy hair, 2 coffees in hand, and a little paint on his sleeve like he remembered what I loved, my resolve cracked. I brought the right blend this time, he said, holding out the cup like a peace offering. I took it, mostly out of habit, or maybe hope. He leaned against the table, eyes on mine. You're quiet. I stared at the steam rising from the cup. She came by yesterday. He didn't need to ask who. I saw it in the way his shoulders tensed. Samantha. I nodded. He sighed, running a hand down his face. What did she say? That you ran from her. That you'll run again. That some men aren't meant to be saved. He didn't deny it. Didn't flinch. Just looked at me like he knew the weight of every word that woman had thrown like a knife. She's right, he said softly. I blinked. What? I did run. I panicked. I thought I could build something stable with someone predictable. Someone who didn't make me feel so damn much. He took a step toward me, cautious. But the truth is, she never made me feel anything. I was just pretending, trying to fix myself with silence. But silence isn't healing. It's hiding. My chest ached. I hated how he knew exactly how to say things that twisted the knife and mended it all at once. I don't want to be your rehab project, Aiden. You're not, he said. You never were. You were my mirror. You made me see myself, everything good and everything broken. I looked away. I don't know if I trust you. You shouldn't. Not yet. But I'll earn it. One day at a time, one scar at a time. He stepped even closer, voice barely above a whisper. Tell me to leave. Live. Right now. And I will. I looked up at him, my mouth parting, ready to do it, to protect myself, to shut the door for good. But I couldn't, because the worst thing about love, sometimes, it comes back wearing the same eyes, but a different heart. So I said nothing, and he didn't leave. That night, he stayed late. We ordered Thai food. We laughed a little. He told me about the cliffs in Galway, the sea air that helped him breathe again. I told him about the gallery's first rough year, the exhibit that saved me. The nights I cried on the floor with a brush in my hand. He listened. Really listened. At one point, I dropped my chopsticks and reached down to grab them, and when I sat up, our faces were close, too close. His breath hitched. So did mine. We hovered there, suspended in a moment so fragile it could snap with the wrong breath. "Can I kiss you?" he whispered. God. Everything in me wanted to scream yes, to close the gap, to fall back into the kind of kiss that writes poems and burns bridges. But instead, I whispered, "No." He blinked. "No." I nodded. "Not yet." He didn't push, didn't beg. He just leaned back, eyes soft. "Then I'll wait." And that did more damage than any kiss ever could. Because it wasn't about lust anymore. It was about choice. The next morning, I came into the studio early, heart full of questions, fingers itching to paint, to feel something, to drown in color. But when I opened the door, Aiden wasn't there. Instead, on my easel where my blank canvas usually sat was a painting, not mine. His It was rough, imperfect, vulnerable as hell. Two figures, back to back, one covered in smoke, the other reaching through it. And underneath, one single sentence in his handwriting: "Love isn't a straight line, but I'll follow it to you." I didn't even realize I was crying until the tears blurred the words. But before I could reach for my phone, before I could run to find him, my assistant burst in. "Liv," she gasped, out of breath. "Aiden, he's in the hospital." The hospital smelled like antiseptic and heartbreak. I ran down the corridor, pulse pounding louder than my footsteps. The world blurred faces, voices, colors until I reached the door where his name hung like a weight. Aiden Walsh, room 314. I pushed it open, and there he was, lying pale against white sheets, and for dripping life back into him. His eyes fluttered open as if he'd been waiting for this exact second. "Liv," his voice was a rasp, soft but steady. My throat tightened. "What the hell happened?" "Car accident," he whispered. "I was on my way to..." He stopped, wincing as pain cut through him. "To bring you something." "I already saw it," I said quickly. "The painting." A faint smile touched his lips. "Yeah. Did you hate it?" God. Even now, he was still trying to make me laugh. I moved closer, sitting on the edge of his bed. My hands trembled as I reached for his. "You scared me," I whispered. "I didn't mean to," he murmured, his thumb brushing my palm. "But maybe this is the universe saying something." "Don't," I said sharply, blinking away tears. "Don't you dare turn this into some poetic moment. You don't get to almost die just to prove a point." He smiled again, soft, tired. "Then let me say it plain." He shifted slightly, pain flickering across his face, but his voice didn't waver. "I love you, Liv." I never stopped, not for one damn second. And if I walk out of here alive, I'm going to spend the rest of my life showing you that love isn't leaving when it's hard. It's staying through the fire, through the fall, staying until the last breath. My heart cracked open, wide, wild. Everything I'd been holding back came flooding like a tide that couldn't be stopped. "Do you know how many nights I hated you?" I whispered, tears slipping down my cheeks. "Do you know how many times I wished I could erase you? And yet, every brushstroke, every breath I carried you, even when I didn't want to." He looked at me like the truth was the only medicine he needed. "So what now?" he asked softly. "Do I get another chance? Or do I just keep painting you in my head?" I cupped his face with both hands. my tears falling onto his skin. There's no another chance, Aiden, I said. There's just this, right now. And if you ever walk away again, I won't, he cut in. I swear on every scar I've got. Something in me believed him. Maybe it was the way his voice broke, or the way his fingers clung to mine, like they'd been starving for this touch. So I did the only thing that made sense. I kissed him. Slow, deep, trembling with everything we'd lost and everything we might still save. It wasn't the kind of kiss that fixes the past. It was the kind that promises a future even if it's messy, even if it's hard. When we broke apart, I rested my forehead against his, breathing him in like oxygen. Come back to me, I whispered. I never left, he breathed back. Weeks later, the gallery was quiet that evening, sunlight bleeding gold through the tall windows. My latest exhibit was almost ready, but this one was different. Not just my work, his too. 2 signatures at the bottom of the invitation, Olivia Hart and Aiden Walsh. People came. They admired the art. They whispered about the story behind it, how love broke and rebuilt, how it survived the weight of silence and the sting of time. And as I stood beside Aiden, his hand brushing mine, I realized something. Love isn't a straight line. It circles, spirals. Sometimes it leaves, sometimes it returns. But when it's real, it finds a way. He leaned close, his lips grazing my ear. Still hate openings. I smiled. Not anymore. The end.